Let me say welcome again to another session on the S.M.N Sports Network. And of course, we are so excited. There's so much laughter going on right now that we know we're going to have a very exciting program. So let me say welcome to our viewers and our followers and our sharers as we sit down again as a real community, sharing ideas about how we can make our community better for you. And at this time, let me kick it over to none other than our old Secretary to the Cricket Hall of Fame, the Honorable Dale Brown.
Thank you, Professor Smith, and greetings to the thousands of viewers we have worldwide. And we appreciate your spending your time with us in this forum. We are going to start off by introducing Mr. Vernon Springer, one of the well-known Caribbean commentators, analysts, mentor, coach, you name it, that is Vernon Springer. And not only does he have all of those credentials, he has a very vibrant voice, one that has no fear, and he tells you as it is. That is Mr. Vernon Springer. We also have with us Mr. John Melbourne, the man who way back when we could not have scores available to us, sometimes it seemed as if he would send a bird or a dove out to go and get the messages back to him as to how West Indies were faring in the world stage. And at that time, West Indies were doing extremely well. And John Melbourne was the man who brought the glad and good tidings to us. A respected broadcaster, an award-winning broadcaster. We welcome Mr. John Melbourne. And behind Mr. John Melbourne and beside him, speaking of West Indies cricket, speaking of birds bringing messages, we have the man who has the hummingbird, the bird with mystical powers, the bird that Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica and all the Caribbean islands look up to as having spiritual qualities. And Mr. Gus Logie out of Trinidad and Tobago is the representative of that bird, which shows the indomitable spirit of the Trinidadians and West Indians on a whole. A former test cricketer, brilliant man, a man who has coached at the highest level. He has coached different teams, brought them to the World Cup, teams like Bermuda, like Canada. None of the full member nations there, but he has done it with developing associate members. That means teaching quality is very, very high on his resume. And right behind him, the rock, the man who is in control of the triangle. We talk about triangular football that the Brazilians used to play in the 70s. Well, the professor has come across with his own concept of the triangular thought process with the three angles. And that is what is the foundation of him forming this group together. So we welcome everyone worldwide, and we know you have thousands of years listening to us, and we are going to impart our knowledge to the best of our ability. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Welcome to you all.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. And Gus, because of predictions that were made prior to the tournament, are going to give you the honor this time of leading off and tell us about the World Cup T20 finals. We were going to travel to Ahmedabad, and we are going to ask Gus to tell us a brief summary of the game and why he is not surprised by the result.
Thank you all. Thank you all. I know Brother John Melbourne wouldn't want to hear me.
Well, you're not an opening batsman, no, you know.
But I think, first of all, it was a fantastic World Cup. I think we will all agree that from many angles, the success of it from a fan's perspective as well, viewership, record viewership, records on the field of play. And at the end of the day, two of the better teams in the competition to contest the final. And even though many of us felt that India playing at home support, really and truly utilizing their crowd to their own advantage certainly wasn't a disadvantage to them. They really and truly used their crowd to their advantage, came out on top. I think, even early in the season, we talked about toss, winning the toss, and we saw teams, inserting their opposition. And many people felt that was an advantage for most teams. We have seen that turn on its head in this particular final where New Zealand would have won the toss, send the opposition in, and what transpired was 250 odd runs. Fantastic innings again from Samson. He's been player of the tournament, no doubt about it. And in the last possibly 3 or 4 games, really and truly, he had run away with the whole player of the series because of his consistent performances, dated back against the West Indies, where he scored a brilliant 97, not out to win that game. And then against England, another 80-yard plus. And then in the finals, another 80-yard plus. So, that certainly propelled him ahead of others who were certainly in the driver's seat. Ably supported throughout in that game by Ishan Kishan, again, another half century. Coming down to the end, had a pan there with the backhand ball, was Boomerang, Axel Patel. It was totally a team effort, as you keep saying, to really get to that massive total, putting New Zealand under tremendous pressure. New Zealand, who had wiped out South Africa in the previous game, 170 odd for one. Many people felt it was going to be a close game again, just as the England-India game. But it turned out to be one-sided affair. I think New Zealand never got into stride. Seifert is the only one who got to a half century, but outside of that, it was really and truly one-way traffic. And one can only congratulate India at this point in time. One of the things about it, though, we talked about India, and then the last time India played there in the 50-over final, they lost to Australia. And many people felt psychologically is the ground that they don't play well in finals, or even in some of the games. What they've done, that many people may not have known, is that psychologically they ease the pressure of their own players. First, they never stayed at the same hotel they were staying at throughout. They shift hotels so that it doesn't remind them of that failure. And secondly, they even change dressing rooms. It might seem trivial to some, but again, the mental decisions that were taken, the team tells me that management of the team and the people around them were quite conscious of how certain situations could affect individuals. The negative thoughts that you could always remember, if you can get rid of it in some way and change the narrative, who knows what happens. And I think it might sound trivial to many of us, but it must have played a great, great part in the way they went about demolishing the opposition. No fear, at the end of the day, no apprehension, just an ability that you've seen time and time again to play the game to the best of their ability and use the conditions to their advantage to much effect. So at the end of it, 120 million people would have viewed that final. 100,000 people in the stadium itself. Magnificent showcase for India in cricket. And at the end of the day, one can only applaud them for the effort, at home. And to the other teams who made it, congratulations to New Zealand, congratulations to South Africa, and certainly to England for some semi-finals. Some good cricket in there. So that's me for now.
Thank you, Gus, and thank you for leading us off with that very well said presentation. John, no, might be a little bit bitter for you, but tell us what impressed you the most and your views on the final.
What impressed me the most on this final was India's number 1, 2, and 3 batting. I think, first of all, the opening pair between Samson and Abhishek. I think they set the table initially with a 98-run opening partnership in 7.1 overs. And then the second wicket partnership of 105 between Samson and Ishan Kishan. I think that kind of set it up. Now, when India lost 3 quick wickets, I said to myself, I wonder if this is a change in the game. But then here comes, I thought they might have gotten about 215 or so. But then here comes Mr. Dubey who kind of lined up the boundary. It didn't want to go through the ropes. He went over the ropes. and so helped India push the score to 255 for the loss of 5 wickets. And, when I saw that 255 on the board and start hearing the commentators say, oh, New Zealand have to start going from the first ball, which is something I disagree with. I believe when you're looking at a large total like that, you don't start going from the first ball, but you maybe the first 5 overs or so, you kind of play yourself in, get the bounce of the pitch and all that kind of thing, maybe pushing, getting ones and twos instead of trying to hit boundaries. And then you can start trying to push the score along. But, Finalin, Rachin Rajendra, Glenn Phillips, they all fell cheaply. And that took the meat of the batting out of New Zealand. Of course, not to mention, I want to try to compare to track and field that early season doesn't count. Is what happens when you get to semi-final and final. And India, when they got to semi-final and final, they were ready. They were not what a determined track and field deal that they use. They weren't loaded anymore. They were sharp and ready to go. And so, they destroyed New Zealand. New Zealand just didn't have an answer. And so they have won a championship 2 in a row. The first team to win the three 2020s, and the first team to win the title at home. And so we have to congratulate them. And now you hear the captain, Surya Kumar Yadav, talking about the 2028 Olympic Games and that they'll win that one too. So, and I don't know if the 14.24 million that the players got when they went back home in US dollars, that shit to share, when you have that kind of money to share, you play, you have to play, you want to win. But I think it was a good. I enjoyed the game, despite the fact that my choice didn't win. Bumrah, of course, Bumrah is Bumrah. And he did his job by getting those 4 wickets and cheaply. That set back New Zealand. But as I said, it was a good contest and I enjoyed it. While New Zealand didn't step up to the plate to really challenge, but a good win for India, and congratulations to India.
Thank you, John, and living right up to your name, such a classy gentleman, being so generous in your praise to the Indian team. We thank you very much, John.
You're welcome, sir.
And we go over to none other than Vernon, who we know is going to come out swinging. And Vernon, your thoughts on the finals and what, if anything, impressed you?
Well, congratulations have to go out to Team India. New Zealand would have played their best cricket against South Africa. But I think when you look at the analysis and you see New Zealand in finals, in 2000, they lost the Champions Trophy to India. In 2009, they lost the Champions Trophy again to Australia. In fact, they won against India in 2000. So let me correct that. They won against India, the Champions Trophy in 2000, lost the Champions Trophy to Australia in 2009, lost the ODI World Cup against Australia in 2015, lost also the ODI World Cup against England in 2019, lost the T20 World Cup against Australia in 2021, lost the Champions Trophy to India in 2025, and this time lost the T20 World Cup to India in 2026. Psychologically, when you played your best game against South Africa, and then you come up against the might of India, who was very consistent in the tournament, and you would realize coming in from the last World Cup to this World Cup, they would have only lost 2 games. They played 32 games and lost 2. That is a serious record. against opponents. Now, let's match the stats and look how dominant India was in terms of a team score. They scored 1,812 runs with 12 half centuries, which means that you had a number of batsmen combining to be able to achieve that target. South Africa, 1,428 runs with 7 half centuries. England, 1,426 runs with 2 centuries and 5 50s. New Zealand, 1,368 with 1 century and 7 half centuries. West Indies, 1,302 runs with 7 half centuries. Sri Lanka, 1,159 runs with 1 century and 8 half centuries. Pakistan, 1,227 runs with 2 centuries and 2 half centuries. Zimbabwe, 941 runs, 4 half centuries. Afghanistan, 767 runs with 4 half centuries. And USA with 685 runs and 4 half centuries. When you match that against the final analysis of the batsmen who would have scored runs consistently for India, take into mind that Sanju Samson only played 5 games, but he scored 321 runs. You match that up against Ishan Kishan from his 9 matches, 317 runs, and Shivan Dube, 9 matches, 235 runs. And then you had Pandey and those guys and the captain coming in and be able to score runs. Now, I know John was saying that when you're chasing a big total, you try and settle in. But in the new format of the T20 format, the power play is always very important, and you want to be able to maximize that. New Zealand was just ruffled and really didn't have an answer as to how they were going to reply. And that all came down to planning in the dressing room by the data and coming up with all of these scenarios. But India played fearless cricket because they were given the license to play fearless cricket. And so if you're given the license to play fearless cricket, that is what is really going to happen. Now, if you watch what happened in this tournament, India do bat deep. And if we look at the consistency, in 2026, India hit 112 sixes. That shows you the power and how deep that they would have been able to execute their plan. So you would realize that over a period of time, the 60-10 would have happened between India and the West Indies. In 2007, they hit 38 sixes. In 2009, West Indies hit 31. In 2010, Australia hit 57. In 2012, West Indies hit 49. In 2014, Netherlands hit 45. 2016, West Indies hit 43. In 2021, Pakistan hit 37. In 2022, England hit 68. And in 2024, West Indies hit 62. And in 2026, India hit 112 sixes. So that in itself now shows you that, John, that the game in T20 has now become a power game. And while West Indies would have maybe fashioned and modeled that and gone off in their tandem, a lot of the other teams have just decided that they're going to be able to move into overdrive. Now, excuse me. In saying that, rotation of strike and dot balls was also a very high percentage for a number of teams in the competition, simply because of you would work out that everybody wanted to kind of go hard in the power play. Sometimes some people lost their shape. And, that's another discussion that we could have on another day. The bowling, Jasprit Bumrah, I mean, there's only one Bumrah. It's just like how there's only one Rashid Khan. Rashid Khan has got 43 T20 wickets in the World Cup. Shakib Al Hasan got 50, Adam Zampa 44, Adi Rashid 44, Hasaranga 40, and Jasprit Bumrah has just come up to 40. So in terms of the seamers, he stands out. And, we were talking about our build-up to this World Cup. We're talking about impact players. India had so many impact players, both in batting and bowling, that it was almost sensational in terms of what's happening. So they have now picked up their 8th ICC men's white ball cricket. Australia just one ahead. West Indies with 5, England with 3, Pakistan with 3, and Sri Lanka with 3. And you could listen and you could understand that there's a plan. As soon as he received the trophy, the captain, they've got their sights set now on winning the Los Angeles T20 World Cup gold medal 2028. So you already see where the focus is and who'd bet against them, based on their depth of players, what they have. So congratulations. Gus warned us the last time that sometimes, as much as we want to carry our emotions and feel that, we'd like somebody to beat India, India is going to be around for a long time simply because their coach is a winning coach. He's as a player, he wasn't the prettiest of players around, but he understood winning. And if you check his record as a player, you see that is being transformed into his coaching career. So congratulations, I know, to Team India.
Thank you, Vernon. And Professor, we know where your heart lies. And tell us your views on the final and what stood out to you the most.
Well, the fact that I never picked India, even though I know that they had the strongest team. I think that West Indies, as a fan, I said that West Indies let India off the hook. Okay? Because West Indies had a chance to win the game and kick India to the curve. And West Indies failed at that point. Now, a lot of luck also went into the finals with India. Because if Brook had taken Samson, that catch that he fumbled and bumbled, okay, the rest of the team really were not the ones that really carried that score. If you had taken Samson at that point for 15, I think, then it would have been a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it might have been more dangerous too.
Probably. But I'm just saying that based on the performance of the rest of the team, I mean, Samson was the one who really came back from being in top form at the last match. At the last match, and so when he came, he was in top form playing against England, and he carried it over against New Zealand. And the record have always said that anytime, well, it's stated, and when England and India plays in the semi-final, history says that the one who wins that game goes on to win the title. And that played out again this time. But I do not think that the other team, the shorter talent. And as a matter of fact, I expect them to get better. The fact is that India went into their last semi-final to qualify for the final. Okay? If West Indies had beaten India, we would not be talking about a super team right now. And as I said, West Indies were very close to, when you look at the scores, okay? But for, a little luck, India could have been watching the team from the sidelines. But nevertheless, congratulations are in place. At the same time, it does not change my attitude when I look at India, not at the players, but what India represents as a team. And the fact that they are not the most popular team, even though they might be the most talented team, because of the politics that comes with their game. And the fact that they are willing to shake hands now does not impress me. Okay? Because that still hangs over their shoulder, that they have not cleaned up that part of their reputation or conduct. So, yes, they will be champions, but they are not being celebrated in Pakistan. Yes, sir.
You
Thank
might
you,
be
Professor.
You might be surprised. You might be surprised, Professor, that they have maybe more supporters in Pakistan. You might be surprised.
Traitors.
No, it's not a matter of traitors. Remember all of them were one, Professor. Whether you like it or not, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, they're all one. Everybody has their own denomination.
Yeah, but the politics. That is the problem.
We
They were one, and now you have Cain and Abel.
We have politicians here too, Professor. Dale is one of the biggest politicians on this panel. You don't realize that Dale does not get involved in anything and doesn't say anything quietly. You got to call out Dale. So there's politics on this panel.
There's a host and there are the panelists. So I would imagine it's the panelists' views that the people really want to hear. But I will posit this question, and I'll start off with Gus. And not that it matters much, but it's just something that sometimes people speak about or don't speak about. At the fall of the sixth wicket for New Zealand in the chase, that wicket fell in the 13th over. And they were at that point 128 for 6. And they needed to score at approximately 20 runs per over to stay in the game. There is a bowler that is responsible for them struggling in the first part of their inning. And Gus, that bowler is Akshar Patel. And at the end of 13 overs, he had bowled his final delivery, taking 3 wickets for 27 runs, 3 of the 6 wickets that fell. And really, that is for me what put New Zealand in the proverbial hole.
I agree. I think he broke the back of their batting, especially when they felt that somebody like Seaford was going pretty well. He got him out as well. And he got 2 other wickets. I think he got Glenn Phillips out, who we know was quite explosive. And I think he got Finn Allen out. So, yes, Axel Patel played a very important role, not only in the batting department, but also in the field as well. I think he took a catch or two, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he did break the middle order, top order and middle order, put the game really and truly with beyond doubt. I think Bumrah came. I think Bumrah got a wicket of a number 3 batter, I think, in that opening spell, and then he came back and mop up the tail, if you want to call it that. Some brilliant slow balls, hit the stumps on a few occasions. It was on a hat trick at one time, I think at the end of the day, Bumrah's bowling was expected, and I think I don't think the pressure was on as it was against England. I think if you want to look at the game against England, I think Bumrah's exploit against England would have been largely responsible for restricting England to having to score 30 runs in that last over. But certainly he reaped the rewards of getting wickets in the final. But I don't think the game was as such that it was on the line. But so I basically that's it. I think that he did his part. I think everybody's happy to see that because he deserved some wickets after bowling so well during the tournament and not getting many scouts. But certainly I think the pressures were different in the 2 games, But Axel Patel, I thought, was quite responsible for having India in that position where they could have almost relaxed and win the game.
Yes. Thank you, Gus. And that's an example of looking at data from the narrative point of view and contextual point of view. If you just look at Bumrah's figures, a great, give him all the plaudits in the world. But I think some of it went at the expense of appreciating Akshar Patel. And many persons speak glowingly of Bumrah, quite deservingly so. But I'm going to swing it to John. And John, the same question for you. And bear in mind that when Bumrah returned for his second spell, New Zealand were 141 for the loss of 7 wickets. And they needed to score 117 runs off 30 deliveries, which tells me that they had to deal in boundaries at that point in time because the average that they needed to score per over was 24 runs per over. It was 23.8 something. Let's round it off to 24. John, your impressions on what you think about that first half of New Zealand batting and Akshar Patel controlling it and then Bumrah coming in to mop it up. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the things that we must miss with Bumrah, the first ball he bowled in his first over, he got a wicket. And I don't know if that had a psychological impact now on New Zealand. That, here comes Bumrah, first ball, first wicket. And it probably, I don't know, had a psychological role on them, but to get 117 runs from 30 overs with 7 wickets down, who is going to be hitting those long balls? The tail end? I don't think so. They might get 1 or 2 here and there, but asking them to get those runs, it really would be a long haul for them. But Akshar Patel, yes, set them back, as you said, till 4 overs, 3 for 27. And it set the game up. And it set back New Zealand. And as I said before, with Finalin, Rachin Rajindra, Glenn Phillips, and whoever else in the batting, the other Daryl Mitchell,
Yes.
gone. Who is going to make the runs? I mean, Santner came in and got 43, but then it was a little too late at that point.
Right.
Yeah, but Bumrah, Akshar Patel. The meat of the bone. In fact, I kind of was surprised too that they had given it to Bumrah because he mopped up. I thought it would have been Akshar Patel or Samson who would have been the player of the match. But then Samson got the player of the series, which is highly deserved based on how the runs he produced for India.
Okay, thank you, John. And just as you mentioned, Bumrah getting a wicket with his first delivery, and it was the assist for that wicket would go to Kishan, who took a brilliant catch to dismiss Ravindra. And not to forget that Akshar Patel had just dismissed Mr. Finalin, which was a crucial wicket to get him out of there because of his exploits in the game, the prior game.
Semi-final, yeah.
Yeah, so he got that. And you called 4 persons' names. And 3 out of those names that you called, sir, were dismissed by Akshar Patel.
Akshar Patel, right.
Yes. So we're not here bashing anyone. It's just to say, how did we ignore the impact of those wickets as opposed to the wickets, 3 out of the last 4 wickets with the tail enders? I just did not understand that. So maybe Vernon can shed some light on that and let us know his thoughts.
I hear you talking about tail enders. There are no tail enders in cricket. Just like how there's no cow corner, there's mid wicket. So we can't say everybody's a batsman. You know what I mean? So sometimes we like to say
lower order batsmen, Vernon. The ones
no, I don't know. To tell you the truth, I put everybody. Once you play in cricket, you're back.
So the New Zealand batsmen.
Yeah, that's sound a lot better.
Right, who have not scored 50 runs so far in the series. How do we classify them?
I think if you remember, hold on, Dale. I think if you remember when we had a precursor to the final, that Gus had made a very important point. Gus made a point about the New Zealand batsman not getting an opportunity to be able to get a knock in the middle.
In the semi-final.
Yes, Gus spoke about that.
Yeah,
yes. And like I said, New Zealand played their best cricket. That was their best day because they had to beat South Africa. So the Finn was just phenomenal. We couldn't take that. But Gus had made a very strong point as a coach that he feel that this could have been able to backfire on New Zealand because their players now had not got an opportunity to be in the middle, got a knock at a run out.
Yeah.
And so here was it now. They came into a situation where their informed players, their top 3 or their top 2, Seifert, Finale, and those are the persons that they were looking for. And the ask was just too much, whether you like it or not. As much as we think that Seifert can bat, the pressure of India having to face a left-arm spinner, then having to face now, Pandey, and then having to face now a Bumrah, it was always going to be on the card. And when you look up at the scoreboard pressure is really something else that can drive you mad, because when you see the runway going up and you see wickets falling down around you,
So Vernon, if you don't mind, the batsmen who were not in form, and we're talking about Akshar Patel's contribution to bring them to the crease, it set up Bumrah perfectly, and we're just questioning why his contribution was not recognized for what it was worth as far as impact is concerned.
I can answer that. I want the panel. Different people look at different things and different situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Bumrah came on to bowl,
really won't touch that.
Right. When Bumrah came on to bowl with 117 runs needed of 30 deliveries, it set him up where he could really take advantage of the New Zealand batsmen's desperation at that point in time. So if we are just trying to look at the impact, we know the history of the game, we know how it played out, but at that point in time, Akshar Patel had laid the solid foundation, and we're just saying, could he have been recognized for doing such?
Like I said, Dale, I won't ponder too much about that. I understand your role. I respect your opinion in terms of how you felt about the impact. And like I said, you will also have to say that Boomer made an impact, because when Boomer came on, the first ball that he had, he picked up a wicket. He also helped.
Right.
He
Okay.
also
Okay.
helped
Thanks,
help
Vernon.
New Zealand.
Thanks. Akshar took the first wicket, and then the very next over, Bumrah came on and took his wicket. So both of them were impactful, and we're not trying to say anything about anybody's performance. We're just looking at impact and who got the accolades for it. That's all there is.
Right.
So,
If
Professor,
sorry.
Professor, your thoughts on it, please.
Well, granted that, when you're bowling in the power play, there's far more pressure in the power play than in the back end of the game. Okay, because one, the fielders are not set up the way that they are at the back end as they were in the power play. And I would have loved to see where they split the power play. They split the 6 innings and they put 1 to 3 and 17 to 20. This way, you level off the game, because it is easier to score runs when you in the power play when you have only 3 guys on outside the 30-yard line. And simultaneously, therefore, when you get to the back end of the game, everybody's playing on the boundary, pretty much, okay? So what would have been a 4 in the power play is a single, all right? Cutting off on singles, and when you want a 4, you think it's getting through, everybody's on the boundary, all right? So there's a whole different set of pressure. So the batters themselves, the bowlers they themselves know it. And they're putting their fielders all the way back to, listen, they're standing right in front of the rubber on the boundary. And catches are being made there, they don't even move, which under normal condition, if the power play was in place, that's gone for. Okay? So when the bowlers bowl, sometimes they don't, the pitch, the situation that they're bowling is set to help them. Okay? The way the field is set up in the first 6 innings for the power play, and the middle and the end is 2 different things. Okay? I applaud the fact that Axel, he was the one who was, doing the breakthrough. But by the time it came to the end of the game, when we said we need X amount of runs of X amount of wickets, if that was power play time, maybe, you start getting 15 runs every over. But they were comfortable sitting back there just giving you a single. Giving him a single. They were not even chasing the ball too hard for the last four innings. Okay? They were just walking over and picking up the ball and fire it back in, because they know that it was out of the reach of New Zealand. Okay? And I'm saying that those are some of the things that cricket might have to change going forward. Split the power play. First 3, last 3. And let us, the tail end batters, get a chance to bat against a drawn-in field, okay? Because the last couple of batters never get a chance to bat with just 3 guys in the outfield and the rest of them on the infield.
Thank you, Professor. Gus, we will, we talk about impact, and what does impact mean to you? In just a couple of sentences, because I want to point out something. What does impact mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think impact means at different phases of the game, who could change the game from one momentum to the next. And just before I maybe go, I just wanted to say that most of the international commentators, the people on the ground themselves after the game, they did pay homage to an Axel Patel for an unsung hero of the tournament. Also, young Dubé, who came in at crucial stages and produced some of the the best hitting they would have seen, at the end of the game. So they were all at certain stages of the game had an impact. Either it's impact in that particular moment, impact that changed the game direction, because that's basically what an impact player most times there and there to do. So the if you want to call it that, the meaning of the word impact is somebody who really and truly comes in at a crucial stage of the game, whether batting or bowling, and make such a contribution that would have changed the direction of the result.
Right. So, Gus, why didn't you mention fielding? You said batting or bowling. Why not mention fielding?
Well, I'm still I don't think I finished really actually at the end of, because that's also part of the game, fielding as well. But generally in the international arena, most times they focus a lot on the batting and bowling. Fielding is always a byproduct, especially when something happens at the end of a game. Somebody takes a spectacular catch or a brilliant run out. That's when fielding sometimes get a little mention. But 9 out of 10 times, in these international games, you really actually batting and bowling always takes precedent. Because even when you select a team at the end of the tournament and you talk about the best team at the end, nobody takes into consideration how great a fielder individuals were. They don't get picked. You always how many runs you scored, how many wickets you took. That's what generally, and then by the way, if you have a situation where two fielders would have done exceptionally, you would say, yeah, well, his feeling would have made the difference at some stage. But generally, I've always remember when I was a youngster playing cricket and I was considered a brilliant fielder. And whenever I come home, the first thing they will ask me is how many runs you made, or how many wickets you took. It was never how many catches or run out you made.
Right. Well, Gus, we're gonna stay with you a little while, but listen, how important is fielding for impact? And I'll just share this with you, Gus. As much as they don't recognize the fielders, quite a few years ago in Sharjah, they recognized a man who did not lift the bat, much less score a run, did not bowl a ball, much less take a wicket, but he got the most valuable or player of the match award. And that to me is impact.
Yes.
And it's a little hummingbird, sir, that told me about this. And for those who don't know, Gus Logie has won the award for his impact in a game just for his fielding. Such was his brilliance.
Well, I think yes. I mean, at the end of the day, it was considered an anomaly to win a man at the match or batting or bowling figures behind you. I think in those it was a low scoring game, Pakistan versus West Indies, and I think it was a low scoring game. And I think in the field, apart from taking 3 catches, running out 2 people, they felt I saved a lot of runs in the field itself. So I was like plus in the batting department, even though I didn't bat.
You didn't bat.
Sometimes they would say, oh, he saved about 20 runs, And I think maybe thanks to the adjudicators at that time who may have seen something quite different in that game and said, look, this guy deserves it. So yeah, I'm happy about that to have won a man of the match. In fact, people still joke about it up to today, How could you have won that? Did you pay the adjudicators? But that's just how it was. But yes, fielding, we always tend to look at fielding, especially if a catch is dropped at a crucial stage. The professor alluded to it against England when Samson was dropped on 50. And had that catch been taken, who knows what the outcome of that game could have been. Now, it either could have been somebody else stepped up and scored runs. The game didn't necessarily, at that stage, it didn't mean that they were going to win it or lose it, but it could have had an impact. And maybe that catch could have made the difference in their winning the game or losing the game from that standpoint. And that's when people will now look and say, how important feeling is. They say catches win matches. Just as a good run out here or good run out there could really actually change the game. As we saw again, when England batted in that last war, even though it was 30 runs to get, but the young man who was there, Jacob was batting so well that you couldn't really and truly rule it out, because at that stage, India had to bowl one of the bowlers who may have never bowled in the game before. As we saw, they had to bring in Dubey. So had young Bethel been there for all 6 balls, who knows what could have happened? Again, so a run out and at that stage from Pandey was also impactful. He changed the game at that particular moment in time. So yes, fielding has its place. It has been like that for many, many years. We've seen it in the World Cup in 1975, 76 when Viv Richards ran out Australians, Chappells and stuff like that. These people could really change the game. So you cannot downplay it, but as I said before, in this modern world, we always tend to think the stats of bowling and batting comes high up, and feeling sometimes is almost at the bottom. There was a time when statisticians wanted to make sure that they could record impacts in the field and how it really actually could really actually add to somebody's substance in a team. But I don't think we've reached to that stage just yet. I think in baseball they do it, but I don't think in cricket do it that.
Okay, thank you, Gus. And we're going to switch a little bit because we know that Vernon has limited time. And West Indies women's cricket squad was just named for the T20 internationals that are to be played against Australia. They are coming off a 2-0 series loss against Sri Lanka, and would like Vernon to update us with his thoughts about the team selected. It's an unchanged squad, and just his thoughts about the squad.
Dale, I have said before, and I will say again, that preparation is the key to anything. And if you're going into a competition, you have to not only prepare mentally, but you also have to prepare physically. The West Indies T20 team, or the West Indies squad that played against Sri Lanka, I question, why would we play 6 matches in Grenada? And it doesn't have anything to do with the venue, but it has also to do a lot with how you develop the game in the Caribbean and what you're looking for. Now, we saw the tracks, and I would have to say West Indies lost 6-0 to Sri Lanka. The game, we were bowled over 49, rain saved the day. But on a general note, you would have to say that West Indies lost 6-0. But as we will know, they lost 5-0. But we lost 5-0 to a team that have never beaten us in over 20 years. So it's a sign that something is wrong with our cricket. Dottin didn't play in the regionals. She's now a Canadian citizen. So she wasn't considered to play for Barbados. She's a Canadian citizen. And that's one of the reasons why there was a fallout last year for her to come back and play in the regionals, because she will now be considered as an overseas player, even though she's playing for the West Indies, because she's now officially a Canadian citizen. So she's given up her Barbados citizenship. So she has 2 areas. She has maybe she still has a Barbados passport, but she's a Canadian citizen. Matthews was out injured, even though she would have played in the women's league. So she was coming back from injury. Chanel Henry, Taylor. So we're talking about 4 big name players. And we say big name players because we're talking about big name players coming back from who we would have to rate in circles of world cricket. I was going through some stats there, and I think yesterday, just give me, okay, yes. So I was looking quickly, Dale, at Stephanie Taylor last 3 T20 series for the West Indies. And I'm going to go as far back as 2023, just so that the folks can understand what I'm talking about. So Taylor played 6 matches, 115 runs, high score of 59. 2024, 8 matches, 190 runs, high score 44. She only played 1 game in 2025. And for 2026, she has played 3 games, 42 runs, a high score of 24. Now let's look at Dottin, T20. Dottin, 2022, 3 matches, 16 runs, high score of 8. 2024, 8 matches, 197 runs, high score of 52. She had 1 half century. 2025, 3 matches, 110 runs, high score of 51, 1 half century. And 2026, 3 matches, 40 runs scored, high score of 28. Now match that up, Dale, in 2024, where she bowled 19 overs for 143 runs and 9 wickets. In 2025, she only bowled 3 overs. In 2026, she only bowled 3 overs, and this is in T20 cricket. Now let's come to the captain now. And we know the captain is phenomenal. So we go from 2023, she played 14 games for the West Indies, scored 700 runs, high score of 132, 1 century and 4 half centuries. 2024, she had 16 matches, 538 runs, high score of 85 not out, 5 half centuries. 2025, 8 matches, 411 runs, 1 century and 4 half centuries. And in 2026, she was below par, 3 matches, 42 runs, high score of 48. So this is Matthew Taylor Dottin. It doesn't give us anything much, Dale, to shout about based on what we would have seen in Grenada. And we're going to St. Vincent now, where it is going to be lower and slower. So it's not like we're going to be, say that we're going to attract in St. Lucia where, you know, Matthews could be able to get out. I asked myself the question there. If Dottin is in the team, why is Dottin batting at number 6 and not maybe coming at the top order and opening? You got young Ebony Bartlett who's maybe just coming to the team. Is it maybe not wise enough maybe that the captain maybe go at 3 and maybe promote Dottin at the opening to open? And so you because Taylor is only batting one style. Taylor is only batting one tempo. Taylor's game is not changing. The strike rate is not improving, even in the 50 over. They have mid-on and mid-off up, and Taylor is not trying to clear mid-on and mid-off to ease some pressure off her. So Taylor is still textbook Taylor. The point what I'm saying is that if you got Janela Glasgow and you got some other people, then maybe you need to start to mix the team. And rather than the skipper putting herself maybe under some pressure, she maybe can look from the pavilion by deciding, listen, I'm going to bat 3. So I'll send Gus and John and have a look, or whether it is Kiana Joseph or whatever. Because I think there's so much intense pressure on the skipper that she herself now is forced. And if you listen to some of her comments, you would hear her say, well, you know, it was nice to see the team. Some other batters got runs in the team because in the past, it was just only down there. So psychologically, mentally, you could hear her like she's feeling the pressure. Final point, Dale. You know, investors come to the Caribbean, right? They come empty-handed. They talk a good talk, they sound beautiful, and we get excited. But Gus and John and Professor SosoBone and Courtney Walsh and Otis Gibson and those guys, they're in the Caribbean. They grew up in the Caribbean. They know what the struggles are like in the communities. The folks and the investors who come into the Caribbean don't understand the culture, don't understand the struggles of some people, don't know the psyche, right? So they come to make money. They're not interested in West Indies cricket. They're not interested in developing the game. Because up until now, Shane Dietz can tell me what is the plan for women's cricket. Because if he had a plan for women's cricket, we would have cancelled that regional tournament that we had this year. 50 over and 20 over tournament that we had in St. Vincent. What we would have done would have been to pick the 40 best girls and get specialized coaches where people come in and mentor them and have more coaching aspect and really concentrate on developing them for this series. But we went ahead and we wasted a gang of money on a tournament that really bore no fruit because none of the superstars who played in the tournament dominated it or even made it dominate. Taylor never scored a half century in the entire tournament. And she's supposed to be the leader for Jamaica. Sheila Henry was away. Cooper's just retired from women's cricket for Trinidad and Tobago after about 18 years. Anisa Mohammed is still playing. And nothing is wrong with that, Dale. I'm not saying that Anisa Mohammed and so can't play. But I'm saying when you look at the pool, the development skills of the ladies, the technical skills of the ladies, our guys who are around the team, Dale, are concentrating on pure fitness, body fat, and how much they want the girls them to be thing, rather than the technical skills of the ladies. And that is where I think that we are missing out there. Compared to when Henderson, Springer, and Campbell and so was around, showing Campbell, we don't have anything to show. Who is the next big superstar coming out to the Caribbean? Look at the women's league in the 100. Who are the players? Who is the next star that you could say, wow, boy, we got to pay attention? There's nobody, because nobody else is being developed.
So what happened to like Claxton and what's the young lady? Another one, Vernon.
Yeah, but I'm saying, Dale, and let me make the point again, Dale. I made the point. If you have Henry, Claxton, Hector, Glasgow,
Yeah.
right? Why can't you get a fast bowling coach, Courtney Walsh, whoever, to come in and work with those ladies to develop them technically? Because they are natural athletes. You can see the potential in them. Claxton is a terrific athlete. Hector is an athlete who has played for Antigua football, basketball, so she got some athletic. Henry is a natural athlete. So I'm saying, bring in somebody who can develop these young ladies and turn them into not medium pacers or people just running up now and again to bowl the ball, but turn them into the firepower where they're natural athletes. I believe Claxton can bowl faster. I believe Hector can bowl faster. I think Hector can bowl faster, but I don't think we have any technical coaches around that is helping them to go to the next level. That is where I think that we really need the technical coaches to help them.
So do you have like Kenny Benjamin down there? What happened to Kenny Benjamin?
Yeah, but he's not part of the setup.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. Sean Deeds brought in somebody from Australia, you know. He's got Shane Darwish, who has no experience at all around women's cricket. You got Ryan Austin, who's just been around the system for a period of time. Are any of the ladies progressing?
No.
Somebody will have to tell me. Because even hear what I'm saying. If Gus takes over that team tomorrow, he has to disbandon everything. The culture of the team. You have to disbandon the culture of the team. Because you could see that the team has certain divisions. Hayley Matthew has her clique. Henry has just come through. She's trying to maybe force through. She's the next big superstar. Taylor is about retirement, and so she's on Hayley Matthews' side. So you can see that. So you can Dutton in her own world. Dutton is thinking about her next contract, right? So it's not about West Indies. So you can see look Dale. Well, you ain't follow the women's cricket, but we're watching them. Look, even when they get a wicket, you don't see a buoyant West Indies women team as a boy, they're excited that they get a wicket or something. You see somebody come across and somebody tap somebody, and somebody do something, and then everybody go back in their position. There's not a team where you could say to yourself, yeah, boy, they look like they're on a mission, and they're looking to buy. I personally feel, Dale, and this is just my view, if Dutton need to be in a leadership position, Dutton is not interested in playing 50 over cricket, so I would have made Dutton the T20 captain because she thinks on her feet. And she's spontaneous. She won't win. I'm not saying that Hayley Matthews does not want to win, but there's a complete difference in personalities. So you heard that couple of games they won, they said, Dutton said, come on, give me the ball here. Let me go and bowl. That's what's missing from the team. And all the talk that the head coach is coming up with, the work has to be supported by regional boards if we want to develop women's cricket. We're talking too much, Dale, but we're not showing we're not investing. If you give the men $5, you have to give the woman the same $5 with the same resources if you want them to do good. You can't shortchange them and tell them, oh, we're only going to give you $1 because we have to give the men senior team the rest of the money. If we're serious about women's cricket, we have to treat them properly. Do it finally, Dale. Australia, they wanted to put all the games in St. Vincent. Australia said no. Australia said, we want to move around. We want to move around. We want St. on our venue. So if you want to play a series, you want to play some games in St. Vincent, we're not playing all 6 games in St. Vincent. We want to go to St. Why? They want to go to the beach. They want a new venue. They don't want to be acclimatized to one venue. They want to move around on different pitches. We don't have any money there. So that's why all the games were played in Grenada. And that's why we're going back to St. Vincent to save some money.
Well, Vernon, thank you very much. And that's a lot for us to think about. And I'm going to ask the professor to comment. We are not there on the ground as you are. So that's why we leave it in your hands. But Professor, from what you have heard, your comments and concerns from what you have heard.
Well, the concern that has been expressed is overlapping some of the concerns that we express about the men's team when it comes to development, that we do not have that infusion of fresh talent which creates competition. And when you have competition, it drives people to be in better condition, and it drives them to perform better, to try to bowl a little bit faster because they are being pressured. The question, however, Brother Vernon, that pops in my head is, okay, who makes the call? Because there's somebody that is making the call that is taking us down this road consistently, who recognize that we just got whitewashed 5-0, and when you come back next week and you ask this person if there's going to be any changes, he tells you no. He's comfortable with the woman losing. Okay? And so you have to talk about the accountability factor. And if there's a person out there who is standing as a roadblock, he likes the job, it's okay to like the job. It's okay to like the lady, but you're gonna take care of her. Okay? And if that is not happening, then the type of chemistry you talk about that you don't see, we won't see it there, because the same way we are looking at the problems that they have and that they are shortchanging them because they have no money, they are living it. They're not talking about it. They are living it. And some of them would like, yes, I would like to play a game at in front of my home crowd. Why am I playing 5 games over here when we have fields over there? They are going through the same thought process. Okay? So the chemistry is not being built where that, they can celebrate when things happen, because for them it's just, they're just going through the ropes. We have to find out who we hold accountable. Not the players. Because if we change players, we expect to have a different mentality. And if all they're seeing right now is what they're seeing, and you bring them in, that's the mentorship that they're looking at. So you bring a young player in, and that young player falls right in place, and you still don't have that energy, the chemistry, so that when somebody takes a spectacular catch, everybody's rushing towards this person like that they're supposed to. Glad fiving them and high fiving them and all of those things. Somebody has to have that type of leadership. Even if it's the coach, run onto the field and go embrace your player. You might get penalized and get kicked out of the game, but you have to do something sometimes that creates that type of response. Dale will tell you how many times in baseball, the captain gets ejected because he's out there in front of the umpires, or the umpire's face screaming blue murder, but he's sacrificing himself for the team. Okay, he sacrificed himself for the team, and when they see their coach all fired up, they get fired up too. Okay, so we have to look at who is not lighting the fire and tell him to take a walk and get somebody who knows to strike a match, Brother Vernon.
Well, Dale, just before Gus coming, let me make this point, right? Because something has been hampering and regressing West Indies cricket for a long time. There needs to be a need and an assessment process on all of our coaches, an independent need and assessment committee. People are afraid to bring in an independent person like Gus to call a spade a spade. So they are comfortable within their own spectrum to feel that they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that there's nobody around the region that can manage the West Indies women's team, that you have to have an employee from Cricket West Indies that is being used to manage the West Indies women team? Is the same thing that we have done with the men's team. So why do we have regionals? We have regionals so that John, who is the manager for Jamaica, all he's going to do is just go with the Jamaica team. So he has no aspirations of becoming the manager of the West Indies men's team or the West Indies senior team. So West Indies cricket is almost operating like a political platform where Dr. Shallow is the prime minister. And if Trinidad and Tobago shout tomorrow and say, boy, we want Gus as a selector, Dr. Shallow finds a way to be able to make sure that he keeps Trinidad quiet, and so Gus becomes a selector. If Guyana shout out tomorrow and say, Professor SosoBone, boy, we ain't getting enough picks on the under-19 team, blah, 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 there. The Prime Minister, Dr. Shallow, comes across again, and he looks to be able to keep Guyana quiet, and he organizes Guyana. If Barbados shout tomorrow, well, we need to host the final. And Antigua said that they want the final. You match up to see where the economic strength and power is. So you know that, boy, me and Mark, they might make some noise, and Gaston might maybe keep quiet, so we accommodate me and Mark and we say, boy, we can give me and Mark the final, right? So that is how the whole structure of the whole thing is run. Because the reason why we have so much governance issues and why a lot of the reports from Webby to whoever and a lot of the things have not been implemented is because people are afraid of independent people coming and looking and saying, you are doing crap and you're not good.
Brother Vernon, there's a politician down in Jamaica, When they call him out recently, he say, "Uno too bad mind."
Bad-minded. Yeah. Well, gentlemen,
Hmm.
Gus, you have heard the comments, and Vernon has laid a very, very solid foundation. And you have the experience on so many different fronts, different levels. What are your concerns, and what would be you recommending as solutions?
Well, first of all, let me just make a little correction and give the girls a little bit of kudos for the last series because, as Brother Vernon said, it was almost 6-0 or 5-0. But they did win a game. They did win a game in the 50 over. So it was 2-1 in the 50 over. Matthew scored 100. And they won, I think, the third. In the T20, yes, they lost 2-0, and it could have been 3-0 because of the rain intervention. However, at the end of the day, we have seen the regression, yes, of the West Indies team on many fronts, which is really and truly surprising to me because I had seen those girls up front and personal, and I know what they are capable of. Again, our standards have dropped. We have accepted what we will now seem to be called as normal mediocrity at every level, whether it's fitness levels, whether it's a tactical level, technical level, and even at the end of the day, the mental level. We have seen it, and we seem to accept it. We seem to have drawn a line in the sand that is so low that whatever they do is acceptable. Whatever is done, whether it's at the board, is acceptable. It's always you hear the fans or somebody who will say, well, we never expected, and we never expected. And it's the same thing going to happen against Australia. If you lose, we never expected to win. Now, if we have that mentality throughout our cricket, I don't know that our players will be expecting to do anything of substance, anything out of the ordinary. They seem to accept that as well because they themselves keep saying, when I hear players go into a tournament and lose and then say, well, nobody expected us to win or nobody expect, I do not understand that kind of mindset or that kind of self-talk. As a cricketer myself, a former cricketer, we never went into any game not expecting to win or any series not expecting. So when I hear, commentators who should know better, you know, praising some of our performances and we did better than expected, it hurts my heart. But then again, that's another. As far as the women is concerned, there are a lot of issues. Yes, one of the things about it with the women's game, we talk about the support basically throughout the Caribbean is just not there for women's cricket as possibly for the men's cricket. That's one thing. Despite, I think, some of the support from the Western Cricket Board with the limited resources that they have, that's an issue as well. I know they have had a coach overseas. He brought his own people, supposedly professional people. The people in the Caribbean would have vetted these individuals and say they were better than what we have at home and put them in leadership position and responsible position to raise the level of our cricket. Some of the recommendations they would have made would be to have these camps in Antigua on a regular basis. Many of the women spend weeks and months in Antigua trying to hone their skills. Again, one can argue whether or not the people who are there with them are competent enough to really help the young ladies improve their skills. And at the end of the day, what we see on the field will suggest that maybe it's just not working out. That is something that left for management to look at. Do we need to have more competent people around our women? Do we need to have better structure around our women? Do we need to raise the discipline level among our women? All these issues are for management, and I have no doubt that they will have to address it sooner rather than later. Springer talked about the individuals in the team. Some of them are becoming long in the tooth, if you want to call it that. Some of them are there playing for possibly milestones at this point in time. The Stephanie Taylor is around and possibly another 100 more runs, 6,000 plus runs, or whatever the case may be. They seem to be, in that kind of mental space at the moment and not necessarily fight as in the past for a team to be successful. I alluded to what the Indian coach said after the tournament, that too many times we tend to want to celebrate milestones. He wants to focus on winning trophies. And maybe it's something the least we can take out of that book in the Caribbean and stop, these things. Somebody scored a 50 or 60 and we say, great stuff, well done, they did well. But then the team lose. We need to celebrate now victory. We want to see more win in that win column than these 50 or 60, and then we still lose it. So it's a philosophy change that needs, it's a mindset change that is needed at this point in time for our young people to believe that they can win against the better teams. That even teams that they're expected to win, it means they have to go out there and play cricket as hard as it's possible. For the Caribbean people, for the governments in the Caribbean, the West Indies Cricket Board is signaling to us that they are bankrupt, whether they want to say it or not. That is basically what they are. They are bankrupt, one, of ideas, it's bankrupt, two, the financial terms. And if we say West Indies cricket is a common good, it's a public good, look at what's happening. Your teams are playing in one venue or in two venues. We have the first class season now. So 3 games, one playing against one team for 3 games in one area. This sort of thing tells you that help is needed. If the governments are serious, if the private sector is serious about Western cricket, they have to come on board and sort of ask for accountability, yes, but also put their money where their mouth is at this point.
Thank you, Gus. John, listening to Gus and Vernon in particular, and also the professor, I know I watched some of those games, and watching them is not really readily available for us in this part of the world. But I noticed a distinct lack of enthusiasm. And that stuck out to me. In addition to the poor performances, is the lack of enthusiasm when they didn't celebrate the small successes. I don't know if you were able to watch any of the games, John, but based on what Vernon is saying and what Gus has said and Professor and myself, you can believe me, the enthusiasm was simply not there. How much of a break are we, and I will just say we, are we giving to the head coach?
Talking about women's cricket now.
Women's cricket, yes. Women's, yes.
Well, it's so funny. I watch, I keep track of, it's so funny. The last 2 years, actually, I have been keeping track by making a note of when each game is played, who scored runs, who got wickets, and who didn't get wickets. So I kind of keep track, and that is why I mentioned to Vernon, I asked about Claxton, because I kind of was tracking, and a couple others, and they have not seemed to have developed the way I thought they would, coming from under 19. And it bothers me that the talent seems to be there, but for some reason it's not bearing fruit. And they have been, some of them, selected into the senior team now, but I'm not getting the results that I was hoping to get when coming in from under 19 level. So I wonder if our coaches then are competent. And Professor will tell you when I do my, sometimes I say, well, Shane Dees has to go. If we're not getting the results from our ladies, find somebody else. Can't we find don't we have a local coach maybe then who could mold our women, develop our women? Do we have to go to Australia to find a coach? I don't know. But I am not seeing the development that I was hoping to see. We have a one Stafford Taylor coming. We have a one Haley Matthews coming. And we're not getting them in bunches. One here, one there, But we're not getting our players, a group coming forward then that can really build a West Indies team, and that really concerns me. And I've said, as I said, I track under 19 women. I have in my computer now. I can pull up scores and who took wickets, and that kind of thing. And as I say, I see them from the under 19 level, but they're not progressing as when they get to the senior level. So something is wrong. Why? Are they not being guided? And as I asked, even the question, our under 19 men just played a series, and I hear a lot of things about what his name, Vitel Laws, as an under 19. Who is going to guide him now from that stage into the senior level? To help him to progress and develop that he can be a top spinner, left-hand spinner in the West Indies team at some point. Don't we have coaches, competent coaches? Is it coaching? Or what is it?
John, not cutting you off. Everybody is a coach, but not everybody is a teacher. And there's a complete difference. You have to be skilled enough, John, to be able to take Gus Logie from point A to point C with a proper program. We have coach, if you recognize John, you just ask a question about Vital Laws. Which spinning coach in the Caribbean can take Vital Laws to the next level?
That's why our coach.
Right? So that is why you heard me was saying, John, about technical coaches, about people being able to come who understand the game. Because what is automatically happening in your job? When you look around in the franchise system, everybody's being coached the same way, Everybody's being coached the same way. Gus is a short player, and the same way how they coach John, who is 6'8", is the same way they coach Gus, who is 5'4". It's the same system. Nobody take no time out to be able to figure out player development, the pathway, and how we can get the player from 19 to 25. So hear me out. If we don't have the biggest problem is that, don't you think, John, that the Claxtons and a couple of the players maybe don't need to get an opportunity to maybe go to England, play some second team women's cricket, get an exposure, get to understand what the culture is like playing maybe in Australia for a season, in England. If you want to learn cricket, you got to send some of these young players to England so that they can be able to live with somebody and understand the culture, and then they can bring that back to the Caribbean. But we're asking them at this early age, with no real experience behind them, to compete at the international level. Some of them maybe might be tired. They might be jaded. The coach for the West Indies women's team, what is his call to fame in Australia? He's never coached a women's team in Australia, but he's coaching the West Indies women's team. If you go to Australia right now, John, and ask anybody about Shane Deeds, they don't know who you're talking about.
But Springer, again, that comes back to the failure of our administrators.
Exactly.
That we have put in power to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it also comes back to our own environment as to our belief in or lack of belief in the individuals that we have in our system as well. And it comes back to even your national setup. Now, you talk about coaches, and we have qualified hundreds and hundreds of coaches over the last possibly 10, 12 years from many different areas. Some from England. People came down from England to do level 2, level 3, level 1. They changed that format and they went to Australia. They brought a guy from Australia who has been the West Indies coach, coaching manager. And he spent a few years in the West Indies, and they did level 1, level 2, and all different things. We have a number of former players who are qualified to coach teams in the Caribbean. Unfortunately, when you look at all the national teams in the Caribbean, whether it's the youth team, whether it's senior team, whether it's women team, the association then select their own coaches. So these coaches are responsible for the development of your under 15, your under 17, whether it's male or female, you're under your national team, and at the end of the day, out of that, that's the sad thing about it. If you have 6 national teams, they have 6 coaches. How come at the end of that tournament, you cannot get one of these coaches to be your national coach of the West Indies team? You still have to look elsewhere. So there has to be an issue within the Caribbean why we do not trust our own, why we do not feel they are competent enough, even after going through all the rigorous exams and all the sessions to qualify themselves, that we prefer to put someone in our national setup who isn't even qualified to be a coach. And then you bring someone from overseas to be a coach of your women team ahead of all the qualified coaches that you have in the Caribbean. It tells you of a bigger problem in the Caribbean that has to be solved. It is a clique. They want certain people in there who they feel comfortable with, who they know, and it's not about competence. It's about friendship. And at the end of the day, it's taking us down a path whereby we do not have trust from the community, from the business community. Nobody's going to invest money in an organization that is making so many wrong decisions, knowingly so. And we're seeing the results of that on the field of play. Hence the reason why we can celebrate mediocrity and put it up there in front of all of us as fantastic. And that's where we are. And it's not going to change unless we make a real roundabout term. We're talking about we've every time we win a game or so, we say we turn the corner. Well, we have been on a roundabout for the longest while. It's a really, really big corner. Every time we go around, we come right back to where we started, simply because of the bad decisions that we continue to make, and we just don't feel we are accountable to anyone in the time.
And John,
And I think one of the problems are we bring in these people who are less than competent and give them the world. And yet you will have a local person who is very competent and you don't want to pay them to do the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
but it gets greater than that, John. Dale, permit me. When the move came under Ricky Skerry to return back as president of Cricket West Indies, remember that the coach was fired. There was a tender out for 3 coaches: Desmond Haynes, Phil Simmons, Floyd Weaver. It came down to 3. Floyd Weaver, based on the interview, was going to be assigned as the academy head coach. So it came down to Phil Simmons and Desmond Haynes. The question was asked of Desmond Haynes, that if you do not become coach of the West Indies men's senior team, would you still contribute to West Indies cricket? And the answer was yes. Phil Simmons was asked the same question. The answer was yes. Now hear me out. I don't know how Gus feel about this, but I know how I feel about it. So it boiled down that Phil Simmons was the coach. And you begin to ask yourself the question, why was Desi not selected as the assistant coach? Based on what Gus was saying. Why we didn't, okay, boy, let's just work together in the interest of West Indies cricket. Sammy came in, same thing. Bring back Floyd Weaver, got James Franklin, we got somebody else as the bowling coach. Meanwhile, Courtney Walsh and company and all these guys are around here. But just as what Gus said, we don't want to have people who are going to call a spade a spade. We want to be able to make sure that we have gatekeepers who are going to block the progress and tell you, oh, that Gus is an old-time coach and don't worry with them old-time players. But you look at the results from the players of the past and match it up against all of the data that we have right now. We have declined. We don't have anybody, neither in the men or the women's game, that you can say is pounding down the door. Look in the 100 in England. How many players who made it? Rutherford, Puran. We don't have no young, exciting player to be able to say, man, boy, this is going to be the next Gus Logie or the next Kywan Pollard. We're struggling because we don't have a system in place. We have not empowered anybody.
No, again, thank you, Vernon, and thank you, Gus. One of the things as they say, the prophet is not without honor in his own country. And when you listen to someone like a Vernon speak so eloquently about the problems, you wonder if we can hear it and we can understand it, why the powers that be in the Caribbean, I'm sure they hear it and I'm sure they understand it, but why do they fight against it? You have a person like a Gus Logie and many others, former players who have the requisite competencies and everything that is going, and yet we hesitate to give them the reins, to give them the freedom to coach our people. And one of the things I'll always come back, John, to track and field, and you look at the success that we have in the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica. It's Jamaican coaches that are coaching these people. We have a college, the GC Foster College, that churns out these coaches. And we, of course, we have the Stephen Francises and we have the Glenn Mills. But we produce and we are dealing with our own production. What is there about our mentality outside of trying to keep the gates with your own gatekeeper? There must be something else in our mentality that is preventing our leaders from really giving props and proper props to our own people. And Professor,
Maybe
I will give you, yes, sorry, go
we
ahead.
don't want to see somebody else who can be successful to be successful. You don't want to give them that opportunity to be because you want to be in charge. Yeah.
I'll give you a little story, gentlemen. In 2003, I was coach of the Canada team in the World Cup in South Africa. Played against the West Indies, and one of my players scored 100 in that game. During that tournament, King Roger Harper was coach of the West Indies team. That was his last season. I was asked to do an interview then in South Africa for the head coach of the West Indies team once it became vacant. I did the interview, and of course, I felt I did pretty well. They felt I did pretty well. Westall, who was president of the cricket board at the time, said to me, "We will want you to be the assistant coach of the West Indies team." I said, "Well, who would be the coach?" He said, "A guy called Bennett King from Australia would be the coach, and I'll be the assistant coach with the idea that Bennett King will come, you will be his understudy." No problem. Came to the Caribbean. Mr. Bennett King decided, "I'm not coming to the Caribbean because I would like to bring my own staff." So that was certainly not in his makeup to have a local coach understudy him. So he refused to come to the Caribbean. The Western Cricket Board at the time said, okay, it was kind of late now to look for another coach. So they said to me, "You're going to be the interim coach against Australia and the Caribbean." And I'm telling you as it is there now, I said to them, okay, so I was going to be this guy's assistant coach. Now I'm going to be the head coach. Who is going to be my assistant? I was told that, "I'm sorry, we don't have any money to pay an assistant." So here I was to be the assistant coach of Mr. Bennett King. He's not there. I am now the head coach of the West Indies team going to Guyana for the first test, and I have no assistant. So I was told plain and simple, "You're going to be taking a basket to hold water." So at the end of the day, this is what you get, from leadership in the Caribbean and lack of support. But they expect you to do a job, and once you don't, they will criticize from head. So I am the only one to deal with 15 young men, 15 men. At the end of I see coaches have almost 10 support staff with them.
Mhm.
But that is what you have to deal with. And then at the end of the day, after some success and some failures, obviously, you're going to England. And from the fact you win a trophy, there were promises then. If you win, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z. Or when you win that championship trophy now, when you're coming back home, they tell you, well, unfortunately, the players do not want to share their winnings with the management staff. So these are the sort of foolishness that goes on. So, at the end of the day, you really have to make a decision at the end of the day, not just for yourself, but for your family. What is the best option when you're in that kind of environment where people don't value you for what you bring to the table? You have a choice. You either say to them, "If you don't value my contribution, you can eat alone. I'm out of it." And if individuals have that opportunity to do it, they do it. We talk about brain drain in the Caribbean. We talk about all these different things. People are leaving because they just cannot handle the lack of respect and the lack of support that their skill sets in the Caribbean are sometimes taken for granted.
But that's what I was saying before, that we bring in the foreign coach and give him house and land.
Yeah.
And you bring your local coach and you say, okay, we can only rent a room for you.
And the sad thing about it is that once I had gone, because I went as soon as the championship was finished, that was my last time. And the same Bennett King, really and truly, who rejected the position, he was the one who was brought back. That's to tell you how it was. The embarrassment of the whole thing. They went cap in hands for him. You know, because as far as they're concerned, he was going to take them to the promise. You know, and then as God would have it, I came to Bermuda, qualified Bermuda to a World Cup. And that's why my life has changed ever since.
And as Vernon mentioned before, talk about teachers. I mean, I know I went through that experience, but you know, they'll claim that I played with a big club in football. But when I went to the club at first, I used to like to dribble to beat people. And the coach was down, John, why you won't pass the ball? Pass the ball, pass the ball. And he said to me one day, you think you can run faster than when I pass a ball? I said, yes, coach. I said, okay, come run. And then he kicked the ball and I said, the ball running past me. I said, okay, coach, now I understand.
Okay, thanks, John. Professor, you have heard it all. We wanted to take out the set square and all the triangles and everything and wrap this up neatly for us, sir.
Well, let me
And
say,
before you wrap it up, I want to thank Gus very much and thank Vernon because he has laid out a very solid foundation about the women's cricket, very enlightening. And of course, Gus is there, you know, keeping the scoreboard ticking over. And we thank them very much for their contribution. And yours and John's, of course.
Dale, just before Professor SosoBone, because I know, you know, just so that you guys understand the lowest ebb that West Indies cricket is at right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's supposed to be a proposed under-16 tournament coming up where the Leavers are going to be playing against the Windwards in Antigua. And they're going to be playing 5 games. And I think Barbados goes down to Jamaica. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, right. But either way, it's almost a similar format to what you heard Gus talk about for the 3-day, for the 4-day competition for the championship. The point is, we just had 2 weeks ago a CARICOM meeting, and cricket was not on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what Professor SosoBone has been talking about. Now, you know why cricket was not on the agenda this time? Because it is going to call for a needs and an assessment. Because somebody is going to say, well, hold on, why you want money from us again? And what help you want? What have you done? We have just invested in venues for the 2024 World Cup, which was held in the Caribbean. And you're now telling us that you don't have any money when you indicated that you paid off all your bills? So what you did with that money? Those are the questions that Professor SosoBone is going to be asking the CEO and the directors. Those are the questions that they don't want to answer. So that is why nobody went back to CARICOM. Because if you go back to CARICOM at this point in juncture, CARICOM is going to say, well, hold on. Where your money gone? So the cricket right now is not only at a crossroads, but it's at its lowest ebb ever. Because nobody has made their mind up to think outside of the box. And it's alarming sometimes when I hear the CEO, Chris Derwin, says, oh, Caribbean Airlines, we spend X amount of money with Caribbean Airlines and they don't give back anything. And I'm saying, Professor SosoBone, how can I spend 20 million with Gus and Gus don't put back 2.5 million into the game, into the sport? How is that possible? Who goes to negotiate that? When we go to negotiate, nobody's having a conversation with Caribbean Airlines to say, well, listen here, we're spending 20 million. But listen here, we're going to put you on the front of the West Indies senior team and the West Indies women team, right? And this is the data. This is what you're going to get when we put you there. These are the numbers. Nobody's having that conversation with Caribbean Airlines. And if Caribbean Airlines don't want that offer, then you find somebody else. But you can't leave it to a point where you are telling me that you're spending all this money with Caribbean Airlines and Caribbean Airlines is not investing back in West Indies cricket. But it's all the cricket that they control, because they are also a major sponsor for the Republic Bank Caribbean Premier League. So why are they not a sponsor for West Indies cricket? But they're sponsor for the Republic Bank Caribbean Premier League. These are real issues that we're dealing with here. These are real issues that we're dealing with here. I said, and I'm going to say this so that Professor SosoBone can come in today. If Cricket West Indies, we have 6 franchises, guys. Maybe the only 2 franchises that can pay their players comfortably is Barbados,
Guyana,
Trinidad and Tobago, and the Guyana government will have to step in. The other franchises are going to struggle. I'll leave it at that, guys.
Okay, thank you, Vernon. And Professor, over to you, sir.
Well, I have been listening very quietly to the discussion. And yes, on various occasions, I will challenge the government as to where sports stands in regards to the economy. What is the strongest brand in the Caribbean right now? It's not really tourism. Tourism will take a holiday when a hurricane comes through. Tourism does not offer any development to the Caribbean. It only offers you a paycheck. But cricket, we talk about the discipline that it gives on to our children. We talk about the fact that when you're disciplined and when you play cricket, you don't get into gangs and you're not fighting and killing each other. So when we talk about the murder rate and the kidnap rate and all the things that are taking place, we ask what spawned their development? How did a child who was born naked, without teeth, who could not talk, who could not walk, grow up to be a gangster? When did that transition take place? When did it take place? We take them from primary school. We put them in high school. Then we put them in college. When did we teach them to be gangsters? What was missing from the recipe? What was missing from the recipe so that all that investment that we take them from 6 months to 17, after 17 we say they are not motivated to do things. We have to go back and retrain them and re-educate them to think and act, to think positive and to act positive. Where does sports fit in? And then we look at other countries, how sports dominate their culture. Okay? Where people decide that rather than pay for the team, they're going to leave the money and go back and play for their country. And we think tourism is more important than developing our children, that agriculture is more important. We said every island have a ministry of sports. Where does that sports minister fall in the hierarchy of the other ministries? Who spends more time developing our children than sports and maybe education? But education normally includes sports into their agenda. So no, we have to call them out. Okay? I told you I sent a request to Ali McNabb. Asked me if he would be willing to sit down and have a discussion with us, since he's a consultant to the Ministry of Sports in Jamaica. And I asked him if he can come, to bring the Ministry of Sports with him. I'm saying it loud on the radio so they can hear. Because you have to cut the fat and get down to the bone. We have to invite Mr. Shering, the CEO, to come and sit on a Friday night, to come and sit with us and tell us what is your plan, what is your goal, and how do you plan to achieve it. We have to invite Shallow to come and sit down and talk with us and say, how do you plan to change women's cricket? We know you fail at men's cricket, but the least, we can only let the women hang out to dry. Okay? Let them come and explain to us, because we are prepared to hold them accountable. This is what this panel is about. Okay? That cricket is not a part-time job, Shallow. So either they pay the man so he can quit the other part-time political job, or he go do the political job and get somebody to work on cricket full-time. Because you can't have two full-time jobs that overlap each other at the same time of the day. And while we're sitting here talking about women's cricket not getting development, the president of West Indies cricket is working part-time. He cannot tell us he's working full-time. It's a part-time job he has. And we have to call it out loud, let the world hear. That is how we have to approach this thing. Our women are begging us to protect them, to intercede for them, to lobby for them, to be an activist for them. And we have to share it to the world. We can't embarrass them. They are embarrassing us. Okay? And we have to let them know. The last thing I posted there, on LinkedIn, one of our episode, I said, fix it or exit. That was the subject area of that discussion. Fix it or exit. And we have to keep on repeating this. Otherwise, they feel comfortable that they're doing a good job because nobody is saying anything. And we have to make sure that that mentality change. So no, I like the progress we are making because we are getting more and more vocal, in talking about the problems. Yes, World Cup is over. So now we talk about our community, and now we're going to make our community grow and improve. And there's somebody standing in their way. Call for the fan boycott. The boycotting already anyway, so I can't even call for a boycott. But yes, Brother Dale, we have the opportunity, we have the platform, we have the technology. I speak about the fact that even as we just started, we have a strong group of people who are following our platform. In 17 months, we have 49 million views on the SosoBone media network. In 17 months, we have 49 million views. We have over 70,000 subscribers, more than 1,000 subscribers a week on the platform. We have the traffic. We have the traffic. It's for us to make sure the traffic, that we become good traffic directors. Okay? We have the traffic. So we need to prepare the product so the traffic lines up and buys it. And nothing scares a man who have a public office like transparency. Ask all those politicians out there. They are not scared of anything like they're scared of transparency, that you make what they're doing public. They would like to keep it under the blanket, under the carpet. Okay? So we have a mission, and as the Blues brother did say, we're on a mission from God.
Professor, don't you blaspheme in here? That's the next line to it, Professor. Don't you blaspheme in here? Yes. No, thank you, Professor, and thank you all. And we have the forum, we have the power, we have the words, and guess what? We have the intelligence.
Yes.
And we have the no fear factor in our favor.
Yes.
And we know that Vernon is head and shoulders there, and we know Gus, the brave. Gus, the man with the hummingbird right at his ears, that special bird, that bird that the Arawaks and the Tainos said carries the spirits of our forefathers.
Yes.
And tells of their vision.
And it's the only bird that flies backwards.
Yeah.
It's a truly special bird. Everybody, they literally worship that bird,
Yes, I know. But even as a young man, we used to want to try and shoot it down, you know.
Yes. And that is one bird you do not try to kill. No, sir.
It has good flight.
Yes. Yes.
Man, yes. Thanks,
Yes.
guys.
So thank you, gentlemen. And next Friday. So one of the things that we'd like to do is if anybody has any ideas, and Vernon has done it already, where he'll just give me a quick call, or you can just give a quick text. I think this would be a good discussion topic. And the beautiful thing about it is that it will be accepted. Once you make the suggestion, yes, let us move ahead with it. And if we don't do it that week, and because we have already had 3 suggestions, we will do it the following week. But just come up with your suggestion, anything that hits you. Gus, you're watching something, an idea come to your head, just text it in. Either you can do it one away, or you can put it in the group setting, whichever one.
Great stuff.
I know I don't have to give Vernon an invitation because he's always coming up with his ideas. You know. Yes, so thank you, gentlemen, and Professor.
I just want to put you on notice now, the 27th, which is a Friday, I will not be available.
The 27th.
2 things are going on that day.
Okay.
Something called Champs,
Oh, merciful.
and it's my birth, and it's my birthday.
Right.
Okay, beautiful.
And my
The 20
son is flying in from Florida that morning. So
Yes, yes. So, gentlemen, let us remember that the 27th, because I have to cover Champs.
that's right.
I have to cover it. Yes, I have to cover it. So we will put that on the calendar and remind everyone. And then
Yes.
maybe Good Friday. I'm not sure if persons go there.
So maybe Dale,
Yeah.
because of what is happening, because we know everybody will be heating up for the Champs and Carifta right after that, because the next weekend is
Yeah.
Carifta. So
Yes.
I think it'd be nice for us to maybe take a break, and then just resume back, unless something real major really happened within the week. But that is going to be a busy.
Comes up. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, Vernon, and I think that's a very good idea.
I think I might be going to Carifta. I haven't gone for a while, so I might be going to Carifta this year as well, too.
Okay.
Let's
Okay,
keep us informed, keep us
beautiful. All
informed
right,
as to
thanks
the
again.
date. If it is you got to bring it forward or bring it back, take it back, let us know in advance. Thanks.
Okay.